on Saturday, May 4th. So that's good that we got that. Let me link it to the notes. Started at 4:15. All right, so where are its check-in, right?
Positions.
Positions. I can help with policy keeping and facilitation and note taking. And also value tracking.
Yes, yeah, check-ins.
Can you do the video indexing in the work priorities master?
Yeah.
Also, I want to put priority work at the bottom. We had that as a task before that didn't get done. Of course, not surprising. Let me go ahead and update the template. Okay, so you're going to do the video indexing?
Yes.
Cool. All right, and remember that the priority work is at the bottom. So I'll start. I'm doing okay, probably like a 6. It's during the day here, which helps on my side. But overall, it's a little concerning that there isn't many people here. We'll just have to figure that out. And there's a lot going on in the world, that's for sure. I've been working on lots of the assets. I've been working on recruitment, onboarding, finances, budgeting, taxes, payroll, whatever, all of it. Yeah, check.
For me, 5.5. Middle of the night, yeah. I've been working on POPP verification. Global invoice tabulation. And scheduling for VA. Okay.
Have you been doing any responsibility organizing?
Yes.
That's good. Cool. All right. What's next? So attendance. So I think our attendance is fine. We did have a couple messages from Miguel. So Miguel gets on our message during the session. Com groups. So you can check on here. I guess we're going to remove Zilu. Sometimes I don't understand why Zilu announces the session, but then he doesn't show up. It's just odd, but you know, whatever. All right. Strikes. So for strikes, we go to the New World schedule spreadsheet. Current global sessions. So here we have, so it says Albina not applicable. So you said you were going to be here within the first hour, but you got here on time?
Yeah.
So this should have been no. Okay. So you're on time. Early should have been no. That make sense?
Yes.
All right. So you do not get a strike, which is good, which keeps you at 5 strikes. All right, so Zilo is supposed to be here on time or early. So he would get a strike. Lucy, I remember Lucy saying she was not going to be attending because she felt sick.
Yeah.
I'm not going to give her a strike. Who are you giving a strike? Emmanuel and Lillian, because they did not respond?
But they just picked one session, like last quarter.
Yeah, but they're still responsible for responding. So did they say no, they weren't going to attend?
They didn't.
Did you give a warning to everyone that they were going to get a strike if they didn't respond?
No.
So who is responsible to do the responses?
Me.
Okay. So maybe you should get a strike for that. I mean, someone needs to be doing the responses. Who's not doing them? Do we have responsibility organizing for that?
For the scheduling responses?
Mm-hmm.
I think we have,
so
maybe I
this
check.
would be worker session responses. We'll say main global session responses, other worker session responses. So let's make a couple notes here. So right now we're doing strikes. It'll also go in the indexing. So not clarity on responsibility and organizing for session responses. So one question would be responsibility organizing. So the responsibility is session responses, which requires a deadline to remind everyone that they will get a strike if they don't respond. And Albina, you said that you're doing this?
Me and Zilo.
Zilu's doing it? Are you sure?
Used to do, but currently it's me.
All right, so it's not clear who is doing the responsibility, and obviously it's not being put through with. So one thing we want to do is we want to add to self-driven responsibilities. That's important. And then we want to double check. So this is a task. We also want to double check that the responsibility is in full. Right?
I put the link for responsibility organizing.
Update main session invitation responses. School make sure to answer who's going to show up for the main sessions and who will not be there. Goal to make a list of who did not do responses and send a reminder out to everyone 24 hours before the session. Let's say 48 to 24 hours for a session to give them one last chance to respond. All right, so obviously this still needs a lot of work to get the responsibility organized, but at least the responsibility exists, which is better than nothing. So do you want, so you're going to take this on, so let's just start it from here on out, but we need to add it to self-driven responsibilities, and we need to double check that it's in the full freeze. So can you do either of those?
Yeah, adding to self-driven responsibility.
Okay. So you're just going to add it for yourself, okay? And then if we hear from Zilu, maybe you can add it for Zilu as well.
Okay.
But obviously, if everyone did the responses and everyone showed up, it would take literally like less than a minute to get through this, right? But it just causes all these problems because people don't show up and they don't respond, they're not communicating, and so then it causes a lot of problems. Okay. Where are we now? All right, so I think we're good on this. Well, actually, yeah, I have to finish going over the strikes. I can help you a little bit with the priority work.
30-second stretch.
Really nice. Thanks. Okay, so let's go back to the current global sessions. So Vila got a strike, Lucy did not get a strike, I did not get a strike, Miguel. So Miguel said he was going to be here on time, so he gets a strike either way. Also, can you check to see if Miguel had strikes from before? Did he leave? Was he around when we had strikes, or did he?
No, when we started strikes, he wasn't around.
He wasn't around. Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll just say that he has one strike. All right, Emmanuel, no response. So I think since we didn't, let's actually add a new category here. To the right. So we'll say reminder. received reminder. I'll just say reminder. This would be the response reminder. So if someone responded, it's not applicable. But here the answer is no, we did not send a reminder, so therefore they don't get a strike. And instead, the person who was supposed to send the reminder should get the strike instead, right?
Okay, yeah.
But for today, we won't do that because we're sort of setting that up. So let's actually add that to the responsibility organizing. Can you do that?
Add what?
Do you want me just to do it? So this would be
Come again.
add to responsibility organizing that whoever is responsible for sending reminders gets a strike if they don't send them.
Yes, I'm adding.
You can add that to responsibility organizing?
Yeah.
Okay, great. All right. So let's see. So that's Emmanuel and Lillian. Gustavo said he was supposed to be here on time, so he gets a strike. Teresa and Mamoon did not respond, but they were not reminded, so they do not get strikes either. What about Teresa and Mamoon? Did they have strikes from before? Let's look.
Yeah.
So if I go to past global sessions, it should tell me about them. Oh, here you go, Teresa. Teresa had 0. Here it says, let's just start them at 0. I think it makes more sense that if someone gets removed from the budget and they come back, the strike should start over.
Yeah.
I think that's easy. So let's put that on the responsibility organizing as well. So policy, if someone leaves and is removed from the budget, and then they come back, their strikes start. Okay.
Yes.
And this is the same with a percentage increase in. Okay. And then this also should add policy to HR policies doc. We want to continue to update our HR policies doc to make sure all the policies are there.
Okay.
All right. So let's go back to current global sessions. All right. So yeah, I think that's all of them. And Teresa. So any other questions on strikes?
No.
So maybe you could make an announcement about who got strikes. Announce who got strikes, and that we did not follow through with responsibility to send a reminder. So that would also be a good task, and this could also be in the, part of responsibility organizing as well. Add to responsibility organizing that after or during the session, a person responsible would send out.
You gave Miguel a strike, why?
Why did he get a strike? I mean, you can look in it, but I think it was because he said he was going to be here on time.
Oh, on time. Okay. What about Gustavo?
I think Gustavo got a strike as well, didn't he? Why are you looking in the spreadsheet?
Yeah, I want to announce. So 3 people get strike: Zelo, Gustavo, and Miguel.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
And you should have gotten a strike, except for that it wasn't clear that you had the responsibility. So we're going to add the responsibility to self-to responsibilities. We're going to add it to the full freeze and put your name on it so that next time you know that you have the responsibility and then it's logged, and that if you don't do it, and we updated the responsibility organizing and everything so that it's clear that you need to do the responsibility or that you get a strike. So did we add that to the responsibility organizing? Yeah.
Yes.
You don't, yeah. So you send out reminders, or the person who's supposed to do it gets a strike. Cool. All right. I think we're ready to move on to the next section, which is rankings. So rankings in this case are pretty straightforward. And then Albina. In value. So for the value tracking, we're going to start doing the support team. So I did create a support team spreadsheet. Although we are kind of doing steering team today again. So we didn't really do a support team, so maybe we should just do steering team. But it's still good to have the support team spreadsheet in case we actually start doing the support team, which would be good. So do we have 2 docs that are exactly the same? I'm still very, very confused on the notes, but whatever. All right. So where were we? So the value equity doc. And we can link the support team. And then we're going to go through steering. So it's been a while since we updated our value tracking. So this would be 1, 6, 70° east. And I think it's just 2 of us. Maybe we could say it's like, we're starting at 4, that is correct. Say 6. 2 hours sound about right? Hello?
Yeah. Yes.
Yes. Cool. We still haven't calculated my actual average pay. Do you know your actual average pay?
For this month? No, we didn't do it.
Well, no, the last time you did it, not for this month.
3, is it? Maybe, let me confirm. $3.33.
Okay. So this is new name, which is 29. This would be our expected network equity here. So let's go ahead and add this over here. So this would be for Jay and Albina. All right, so I think we are good for now on the value tracking. Let's do our weekly check-in. Sound good?
Yeah, yes.
So that also brings up our need to do, we need to do, oh, let's see. Oh, no. So we need to make sure that we are doing our weekly check-in verification. Note this is different from weekly check-in calculations. Do you know the difference of between the weekly check-in calculations and the weekly check-in verification?
Yeah. Verification is to verify who filled the weekly check-in form.
Yes. So this should be very, very simple to do. Are you interested in doing that at all?
I do understand.
Okay, but do you want to take on the responsibility?
Yes.
Right, so we can add that. So let's go ahead and add this to full freeze and self-driven responsibilities. Can you do that as well?
Yeah.
Okay. So you want to make sure that everybody is notified that they can't work unless they fill in the weekly check-in. Okay.
Okay.
And then when you put these things on the self-driven responsibilities, make sure that they're yellow and that you need to do both the responsibility organizing and the actual work. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So let me know when you're done with your weekly check-in.
Some few minutes, like 2. Bye.
Okay, so next is desired outcomes and our topic for the session. So far I just have the budget. If we could make sure that we're on track with our monthly budget. And also we could review and upgrade the budget process. I think both of those would probably be a good idea. And then maybe we could check in on where we are with the onboarding.
So where are we?
Within the desired outcomes.
Desired outcome? Oh.
The only things I had was the budget and onboarding, like checking on their onboarding process.
Yeah.
Did you have anything?
Just budget and onboarding also. Nothing else. To review POP, is it the same as onboarding?
It can be part of it. What do you have a question about the POP?
Yeah, to double check if they are fine before people fill the tax forms.
So you want to go? Do you want to go through POP verification?
Yes, just reviewing on POP verification.
All right. Any other desired outcomes or topics?
No.
All right. Well, I think unless there's any objections, I think we're ready to go on to.
No objection on my side.
Yeah, that's ready to go on. So I guess we could start with the budget. So
Are we doing a minutes review?
we'll just start with the minute review since we only have 2 topics. So for the budget, we're going to be doing a couple different things. One is kind of like where are we now with the budget. So we have a deadline of the quarter moon before we go on budget hard stop. So it's working on budget. So we have our global core team budget. We've got tabulation, estimated tabulation. So we know you're doing that.
Yes.
And then there is recruitment budget, recruitment team budget. There's Bella team budget. And then there's proposals for removing people from budget, and then there's HR board.
On tabulation, I'm on step 2.
Okay, but remember the estimated tabulation should go really quick. You shouldn't be spending more than a couple hours on it because, like, you know, we don't even really use it. We use the time budget, right?
I think we on estimation we have around 200 to 80.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's you know, more than enough, right? I mean, we know we're way in the red.
Okay.
We know we're way in the red, and that's what matters, right? Because we're using the time budget. So the time budget, since nobody is into the loss budget, the estimated tabulation is good to have, but it doesn't really change anything in terms of the budget.
So if I stop there and continue from there, since we know the estimation.
Yeah, I think it's fine.
Or should I just stop?
I think the estimation is more than enough. Yeah.
Okay, fine.
I still don't understand why it's so low. That though it doesn't make sense to me. Like, when we do all of our sessions for, planning sessions and all of our, basic need sessions and some of the recruitment commission work. I mean, it should all be billable work. I mean,
Yeah, but we started planning and doing scheduling in last month. This is for 61.
okay.
Yeah.
So hopefully in the next month we'll see an improvement on focusing on billable work and actually increasing the budget.
Yeah.
So who's gonna do the proposals for removing people from the budget?
Should we do that before we do the budget, or we do after doing the budgets?
Well, it goes in the HR board voting form.
Like the form comes after the budget or before?
Well, I mean, it technically comes afterwards, but we need to get the budget options, get them in the voting form, and get everyone voting before the quarter moon. We have a week. And it all needs to get done as soon as possible so that we are not going on budget hard stop.
Okay, I'll do the forms.
Remember, the budget should just basically be a continuation of the previous budget. Remember, because we have the whole quarterly budget, so it should be super simple.
Okay.
And if you have a question, just let me know or just send it over. But from my understanding, the lowest HR ranking would be Miguel. The lowest strike ranking would be Zilu. And we could also check on the jurisdictional. Do you have the link to the jurisdiction? So we do lowest HR ranking, dollars per hour, right? And then there's lowest HR ranking, jurisdictional, right? So I'm not sure if that's Miguel as well, but we could check on that. Lowest strike ranking, then we have the lowest buddy team ranking. In the time budget.
That is, I think, Rotin.
What?
Rotin and Ananda. But are we not taking them back to the budget?
Rotin and Ananda are not in the budget.
So are we not going to fix them in this month budget?
What do you mean fix them?
Are they not going to be on the voting form, as in on the proposal we will have?
What are you trying to say? I don't understand what you're asking.
Okay, I'm asking if we are going to include them for this month's budget.
I mean, I guess you could if you wanted to consider them as an option.
Okay.
It's up to you. I mean, I just haven't. It just doesn't seem like they're particularly interested because they never really communicated with us. But either way, that's part of recruitment. We have lots of other recruitment to do.
At the top of the hour.
So are you interested in helping with the proposals to remove people from the budget?
Yeah. Will help.
Okay. And then what about the HR board voting form?
Can still do the voting form?
Are you going to do the voting form?
Yes.
Okay, remember you can just like ask other people, assign other people to do all these things. We have lots of people who you could assign and meet with and do buddy teams and work and train them.
Okay.
All right, so then the other part of the budget was to review the budget process. This is something I've asked you to do at least 10 or 15 times, but I don't think you've ever done it.
I think we have a budget process book. Let me check. Is it the same as budget system?
Maybe.
Budget system. Let me link the budget system doc. You can check on the system. I don't think if that's the same.
Yeah, so the budget process is step 5. No, step 4. Yeah, step 4. So the budget system involves invoicing, client income tabulation, and involves also there should be client income tabulation, invoicing / accounts receivable, right? So there's a lot that goes into the budget, and these are all separate responsibilities and processes, right? So the HR board would be, other components of it, and obviously the main session, everything. But right now we're talking about step 4, which is the actual budget creation process and updating process.
Budget creation, duplicate from previous month. Down there, we have 3 steps. Duplicate from previous months. Get all the information.
I guess maybe we also need to add something in here, which is ranking and proposals for who remove from budget. So, I mean, I think overall, one of the biggest problems is that we don't have any responsibility organizing, and we don't have any actual steps. So maybe that's one of the problems, is that we don't have clear step-by-step instructions for how to do the budget. The tabulation. Where does the tabulation come in? Oh, it's number 2?
Number 2.
So I mean, I'm not sure exactly what else to do. Obviously, there's also a budget manager, like a FQN Community Network budget manager that we don't really have clarity on either. But I think you're pretty much have that position, right? So position would be the FQN or FQN workers budget. Manager. All right, well, anyways, I think we did what we were supposed to do, which was to review the budget system and processes. So I'd say the next steps here are that we need more detailed processes, links to responsibility organizing. We need clarity on who is the budget manager. Is this Albina? So if you want to sign up for Albina, and then also make sure we have step-by-step instructions. And then we need to start training people. So, I mean, it would be good if you're interested in doing some of that, but eventually I'll get to it. It's just not going to happen anytime soon. So, any other questions on the budget system? We need to streamline it, make it more efficient, more effective, quicker, faster. I mean, it's just taking too long. It shouldn't take this long to get updated budgets.
So we need to schedule so that we have the detailed processes and steps that are clear.
Yeah, we could also do some of that during the value distribution and value and payroll part, that particular session.
Yeah.
So we could make sure, so a task could be make sure updating budget system and processes is included in the value distribution / payroll system. Can you do that?
Do what?
Can you make sure that we're updating the budget system process to include the value distribution system priorities and plan?
Yes.
Okay. All right, well, I think it's good enough for now. Hopefully we can get the budget done by the deadline, which is 1 week from now.
Okay.
And if you could remind, like as a manager, you should be reminding, Zilu that he's supposed to work on the Jello team budget. You can remind Lucy that she's supposed to work on the recruitment budget, right? I think Lucy did a draft recruitment budget, so you need to add that to the voting form. And you can ask Lucy if you want her to help with the actual HR board voting form. She could probably help with that if you're interested. Or you can train someone else and whatever you want to do. All right, shall we move on?
Yes, can move on.
Okay, so how about onboarding?
Just wanted to check on the POP verification spreadsheet.
The only things for me on the POP. So we'll do POP verification first, and then after POP verification, let's do the overall recruitment round, and then we have review, and then we've got onboarding. So the main things for POP verification are that or that we seem to have we might have skipped requirement for stating the budget status and ability. Also, it seems like we're confusing the type of involvement and the role, the worker role. I think those are two things we want to make sure we're going over and adding to responsibly organizing. So what questions do you have here about the POPs verification?
Yes, we just wanted to double check and see if it's fine.
What do you mean double check and see if it's fine? I don't know what that means.
I think people got the POP updated, so to confirm also if the personal detail information was sent in the email.
I'm not going to be confirming any personal information on a live call, so we either need to do that during a buddy team or on Skype. But either way, you can have them send it to you directly, and then it's perfectly fine. Like, you don't have to have them send it to my email. Just you can have them send it to you.
Okay.
Like, I don't know exactly why you're having them send it to me. Maybe you just don't want them to send it to you. You have a Google account, right? An official Google account?
We have, but since it's private information, so maybe I thought it would be good when they send through the email.
I know, but they can send it to your email. I mean, to the email for the Google account. What Google account do you use?
Yeah, I have a Gmail, and also I have a group Google.
An FQN Gmail account? You have an FQN?
Yes.
Yeah, so you could just use that one. It's the same thing.
Okay.
What's the difference? I mean, the one I have is just a Gmail account as well. Remember, the goal is to get the information in the payroll processing spreadsheet. What is this 95%? What does that mean? That means they're not completed?
Just for double checking, but complete.
So method of payment details, and then receive their payment information. Okay. Clear who is paying fees. Good as well. Okay, so the type of role seems to be a problem. So there's the type of role. They're either They're either executive admin, consultant, or contractor, right? Or specialist. Think of it, or consultant. But anyways, they're listed on the list, right? And then there's the type of role, type of involvement, I guess would be easier. Involvement. And then there'd be, role. Which would be, if they're doing recruitment, general worker, budget, finances, all that kind of stuff. Does that make sense or not?
That makes sense.
So I feel like some of this one is missing. I'm concerned about this one because I don't see it when I look at everything.
But it's under the acknowledged questions. Some have filled the questions.
Okay, so who did it?
They specified specialists.
So who do you want me to look at? Like, who did it?
Like Emmanuel.
Emmanuel?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, personal details.
Okay. All right. So from there, the other thing that's missing is the budget status and stability, which would go at the top. So minimum wage, jurisdiction cost, jurisdiction value package, ideal requested lowest, annual budgets. So I would put this here. So basically you have budget status, say budget stability, month to month, quarter, half year, etc., etc. And then the other one was which budget. So this is like time budget, loss budget, owner's budget, etc., etc. I haven't been seeing those. So it should go near the top.
Mm-hmm.
So it should go right up here near the top. And it would say, possibly even in yellow, like, month to month, like you have your unstable budget month to month. So it depends on the person. Like obviously Gustavo has a much more stable budget. So his budget would be stable for, at least a quarter, if not half year. 3 to 4 months. But he's still being the time budget. So I don't see any of those. Do you see any of those anywhere or no?
No.
Yeah, so we need to make sure that's fixed. So nothing from Teresa or Mamun?
Nothing, no communication.
So we should probably be proposing, if they're not communicating, we should be proposing them that they're being removed from the budget. That make sense?
Yeah, makes sense.
Teresa, we have not heard from you for many days. Please communicate and let us know where you are with your Otherwise, you will be automatically proposed to be removed from the budget for non-activity. All right, so hopefully that might help. Is there anyone else who hasn't been active besides Teresa and Mamun?
Yeah, Teresa and my mom.
Anyone else?
No. So for the POP, they need to update again so that we do the verification.
Okay.
Fill the information that is missing, right?
Who?
I'm asking for the information that is missing on the POP. They need to fill again.
Who?
So that we do the verification.
What?
Like you added some columns. I don't think any of us fill the information, so.
Okay, but you should be able to add that in yourself, because I don't think they would even know what to put.
Okay, so I can just put it, right?
Yeah, so it's like a new responsibility in the context that as part of our budget, we need to list the stability level and the type of and which budget people are in, right? So the time budget's pretty simple. Like everybody's in the time budget pretty much, right? Except for me.
Yeah.
And James, a couple other people on sponsorship payrolls. So as far as the actual status goes, I mean, everybody's basically month to month except Gustavo. Gustavo's the only one who has a low enough budget. We could most likely stabilize that for, a quarter, 3 to 4 months.
Okay.
So if you want people to update those, you could update that in the rankings, or you could update that in the budget, and then they could update it on their own pops. Or you could just tell people directly on Skype to add it, or you could just add it yourself, whatever. But either way, that is important for them to know what their budget status is and which budget they're in.
Okay.
All right. Anything else?
No.
All right. So let's go over the current steps for onboarding.
We didn't take a break. We're almost at the bottom of the hour.
Okay. Do you want to take a break or just want to finish up? I mean, I think we're almost done.
Yeah, let's continue.
All right. We can add that to our policy keeping. So goals for onboarding. So step 0 is fine. Step 1 for main session schedule responses is problematic. So we definitely need to do more of main session scheduling, especially for responses. We need to make sure people understand they need to respond to all of the sessions, not just the one they're going to be attending. Okay?
Yeah.
All right. Step 2, detailed intake for POPs and main buddy teams. I think this is fine. I think we can move on from this except for Teresa and Mamun. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So for initial worker criteria, this is where we're at with pretty much everybody else. And then after we finish initial worker criteria, we'll get into training and watching the primary training videos, and then we can actually start doing VA sessions and work sessions for recruitment, which will be good. So for the initial work criteria, I did work up a document for this so that it's much more clear. It's a little bit complicated. It probably needs to be simplified a bit, but step 1 is to review all the previous requirements. So step 1 is just kind of review and double check everything. So double checking that POPs meet criteria, double check that my buddy teams are good, double check that everyone's main doc has the correct role with the training links, double check that the main session responses are logged, double check that all their hours are being tracked in their work report, double check that everyone's clearly has their budget status near the top of their POP, right? So this is the thing we just went over, right? Unstable month to month time budget. Triple check and even follow up on the quick check-in or interview on the tech communications, English level, audio, video, etc. So we'll make sure everyone has clear conversation flow and ability to answer questions, have group understanding, and update the POP verification accordingly. So can you think of anything else?
What about follow up with the scheduling? With the schedule?
What you mean the scheduling responses?
Yes.
Okay, so I think that's here. Main session responses. Double check that main session responses have been locked.
Okay. Yeah.
So is there anything else?
No.
Okay. So let's cross this out for now. Maybe we'll add that back in. All right, so then from there we have the tax forms. I linked the tax form instructions here, so that should help everybody. They just go to the tax form instructions and it should have everything that they need for the tax forms. And they can ask questions as needed. So do you have any questions for the tax forms?
No.
Okay. So then the step 3 is commitment.
Which email should they send the tax form?
I think it's just the global, UniNet Global is fine. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. So for the scheduling, we need to link the New World scheduling spreadsheet here. So their commitment is basically just like how many hours per week are you committed to? I feel like also we could ask how many hours per week are you committed to, and for how long, how many months, right? How many months are you interested in working? Are you interested? So priority focus, making sure we understand what their priority focus is in their life and where African Community Network fits in to their work. Like if they want to work 30 hours a week and they want to do full time, it should be clear that they're committed to something and like what's going on, because we don't want to go through it again where we're dealing with people who just are not showing up and not communicating. Like Mamoon and Teresa, it's like ridiculous. It's like the fact that we give them a second chance like this and that they're falling behind everyone else who's brand new, we just need to hire new people,
Yeah.
Hours per week commitment. So this would be how many hours are committed per week for. So, and just to refresh like our memory, if we go to the scheduling spreadsheet, we can see where this all fits in. And there's also the verification. So total hours committed, hours for buddy teams, global session hours, self-driven hours, right? So this is what we want updated. Number of sessions per worker based on the number of responsibilities they have. So this would most likely be 0 responsibilities for a lot of them. And then they need to fill out their, then we'll go into the general availability and committed availability. So verification. So fulfilling worker involvement criteria. So that's the overall criteria. Updated commitment. General availability, want to verify. Yes. All right. Cool. So does that make sense?
So are we doing one person at a time, or maybe 2 or 3 people?
I mean, it's up to each person to decide how they want to do it. Commitment can be done typically at a buddy team or at a main session. So when they come to the main session, we can double check on it for each person. But also they could easily do it during Skype. If they just communicate with us, we would just ask them the questions directly on Skype or by email. And also we'll be making a voting form, not a voting form, like a questionnaire. So that is definitely a task which I'm going to be working on. So this would be a responsibility to create and update the worker engagement questionnaire. So just like we have the intake questionnaire, there would be a worker engagement questionnaire, which would go through a lot of these questions. So I think it'll be easier for me just to do that because I've been working on that already. All right, so here's commitments. Is there any questions about the commitment?
No.
Okay. So availability scheduling also is on the scheduling spreadsheet. So we have their general availability and all the time, and this explains how general availability works, right? Which is basically all the time that you're available. And then you have your committed availability, which is the time that you're actually assigned to work, right? So if they're only assigned to work 5 hours, then they only need to put the 5 hours they're assigned. If they're assigned to no buddy team sessions, then it would be 0, right?
Yeah.
And as they choose more responsibilities and get all of their verification done, then they should, get more and more hours. We need to make sure it's clear to the new recruits that they just need to step up and do what we're asking them to do. This whole thing could take a couple hours if they just did it.
Yeah.
Also, if they showed up to the main session like the new moon, it would also happen as well. So is there any question about the availability scheduling?
No.
Another thing that we confirmed somewhere is the verifying leave, right? If someone's not going to follow through the commitment but needs time off for a temporary reduction commitment, then we want specific criteria to be approved. Like they can't just disappear. We need to make sure that they have a start date and verify a schedule for when they get back.
Okay.
So that's also part of scheduling and verification. That should also already be in the verification. All right, so any other questions on availability scheduling?
No.
Okay, so then we have step 5, goals, check-ins, and reporting. So they have the Mercury goals, right? So Mercury 1.5 month goals. Do you have any questions on that?
Goals listed on the they're supposed to list on the main docs.
No. Goals are listed on the Mercury session report.
Okay, I just want like number 1 says listed on main doc.
They can list their goals on their main doc if they want to. So you could say can track goals on your main doc, and basically that goals will be listed in the Mercury report. Okay.
Yeah.
Goals are due at the Mercury session every 44 days, about 1.5 months. Everyone's required to set goals so they cannot work. Period. All right, does that make sense?
Makes sense.
Any other questions about the Mercury goals?
No question.
Okay, so the next one is the weekly check-ins. So the weekly check-ins is happening now. So you need to send out a reminder to everybody that they need to do the weekly check-in or they can't work on anything else. So do we do that? So send out weekly check-in reminder that anyone who hasn't filled it out can't work. Okay, can you do that?
Yeah, we also need to send them the link, the voting form link.
Why? What voting form link?
Yeah, for the weekly check-in form link.
That's what the reminder is. So send out the weekly check-in reminder with the link.
Yeah.
So that anyone who hasn't filled it out can do that, or they're not allowed to work.
Okay.
So we don't even need to send out the initial worker involvement until somebody actually fills out the weekly check-in. So payroll check-ins we've never done before. Oh, do you have any other questions on weekly check-ins?
No.
So for now, we're still not going to do the calculations, but we are going to continue to do the weekly check-in, filling out the actual form.
We want to be doing the, when are we going to do the verification?
The verification happens now. Like everybody's required to do the weekly check-in now and is not allowed to work until it's completed. That make sense?
Yes, like after like a day or immediately. Immediately we end the week. That is when we do the verification, or how long do we give them to fill the form?
The first thing that anyone does when they come back to work at the beginning of the week is to fill out the form for the previous week.
Okay.
That's the first thing they do. They shouldn't be working, right, if they haven't filled out the form, right? So it's supposed to happen, I think, within a day. Like, like today's the new moon, so they have today to fill it out. And then at that point, it's like, or maybe it's the 16th moon or something like that. I don't remember. We'll have to look. But overall, it's like if you didn't fill it out, you need to fill it out first. Like that's your first thing you do. And all the new recruits, I mean, there's nothing else that they need to do. So it would be silly for them not to fill it out. Okay?
Yes.
So any other questions on the weekly check-ins?
No question.
I think it's simpler just to say, like, at the beginning of the week, you fill out the form. You can't work until you fill it out. Simple as that. Okay, so can we move on?
Yeah.
So payroll check-ins, we've never done this one before. We have the form ready to go. We just haven't used it. Basically, the only thing that's really different and required for that is simply calculating your actual top average pay, right? So that everybody knows what their actual top average pay rate is, and that they understand what their output is and deliverables, so that it's clear what they're getting paid for. Right? So that's something that we haven't done before, but we are interested in pursuing that and adding that to our payroll. So it is part of our policy. Is there any questions on that?
No.
Yeah, so if you're paid once a month, it would basically be like a monthly check-in on your payroll, right? This is all the deliverables I did for the month. This is how much I was paid for the month, plus all of the costs of running the payroll and paying all the fees. And so this is my total money per hour pay, and that's my rankings, so that every person is acknowledging that they know how much they're getting paid and what their ranking is and what their dollar per hour, what their actual amount of money that they're making is, not just their requested or the budgeted. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because there's a big difference, right? People, whether they're doing bonuses or advances or back pay or whatever, it just like the actual money people are getting paid is different than the money that is budgeted. So people need to acknowledge how much they're actually getting paid and not just how much they're proposing in the budget. All right, so any questions about the payroll check-ins?
No question.
All right, coordinator, manager, and executive check-ins. Do you have any questions on those? It's basically seasonal session, Venus session.
No.
Cool. All right. So then it's step 6 is choosing priorities and responsibilities. This whole process here, there should be a link. I think we have information. Find link to more information on this. I think there may even be a video, but let's not do video training yet. We'll do video training on work organizing, and we'll go over it in more detail. But do you have any questions about? I mean, this can be complicated for new recruits because they don't understand, and everybody wants just to be spoon-fed. Everybody wants us to give them responsibilities, right? They just want to be spoon-fed responsibilities. In other words, they don't want to take responsibility for stepping up and actually doing anything, right? So it's much, much, much better for people to step up and take on responsibilities than to be spoon-fed responsibilities, because otherwise they just don't do anything, right? It's like if they're not even going to step up and take on a responsibility, the probability that they're actually going to follow through with it is almost zilcho, zero, nada. So we want to be training and starting the training about what priorities are, what responsibilities are, and get them engaged in choosing responsibilities and priorities, which will include, we're going to be linking the full freeze priority list, right? We'll also link the prime plan, right? So these both will get linked, and they'll be able to look through what our priorities are as a team, and also what is and is not getting completed. So that should help them get an idea of what's going on. They still may not choose responsibilities right away, but we want to get them engaged in it. So even if they don't have responsibilities chosen, they still need to acknowledge that they understand that they need to choose responsibilities. So the criteria is pretty lax on this particular part. They don't choose responsibilities. It doesn't mean they can't work. It just means that it limits their number of hours. If you don't choose responsibilities, it doesn't mean you can't work. It just means that you have limited. The more responsibilities you take on, the more hours you can work. That make sense?
Yes.
Levels and badges, same thing. It's not going to stop them from being able to work. It's we just want to make sure everyone is acknowledging what level they are. So everyone needs to know what level they are on and what badges are working towards. So the levels and badges just help people understand where they are in the context of the network, so that they understand where they're working towards. Otherwise, it's just, you're in the dark, right? So when you have your levels and badges, it's like, okay, I'm working for this badge. This is what I need to do to get this badge. This is how I move up a level, so that it's really clear what exactly their expectations are if they want to exceed and excel within the network. All right.
Yeah.
So I think that's pretty much it on the initial worker involvement engagement verification. Also, this video that we're making right now could be used for, informing new recruits about all of these steps and what's going on, although we're going to want to make even more detailed instructions for each step. Okay?
Yes.
Have you announced that people need to do the weekly check-in yet, or no?
No, I'm going to announce.
Okay. So once you announce that, then I'll announce the initial worker involvement engagement verification, and let people know that we have this document that goes through all the steps.
Which one? Oh, this one, the initial work involvement doc. Okay.
Yeah, and then also you need to review. Wait, I'm going to do that. You're going to send them the weekly check-in form.
Okay.
So the other thing that you could do is you could review these 7 steps in relationship to the verification spreadsheet. So the verification spreadsheet for the worker involvement may include other details that we have not included here. Okay?
Are we making a new one, or we're just using the existing one with the new tab?
It's up to you, but I would assume that it is just using the existing one.
Okay.
Yeah. So then after we get through the initial worker involvement, then we can go on to the training. So the training is going to be a lot more exciting, but it's still going to be sort of slow because this is the general worker training. So it's pretty basic stuff like, you know, work organizing. You know, so we need the list of training. We need to make sure training videos all exist, and we need to make sure that every single worker is going through all those trainings. They should be able to go through all of these trainings in like, you know, a couple hours. You know, maybe like at most like 4 to 5 hours of videos, right? They do for a few days. Like it shouldn't be that hard to go through the trainings. The training videos should be pretty easy. And then they would schedule the VA and virtual assistant executive training session, right, where they're actually practice going through the buddy team policies. And then they'll be ready to schedule VA work sessions and get to work and start on recruitment training. So, I mean, this is what we want to get to. We want to get people trained so that they can do virtual assistant work, and then get them scheduled and then get the work done. So we're getting really close here. And then we're going to want to get them into doing more recruitment training, and then we want to get them actually doing the recruitment round and doing the work. So, and then it'll all start over again. We'll be recruiting new people and then sending it through all over again. So we're really close. We are very, very close to getting through all this, which is exciting. And although it looks like Teresa Mamoon might drop off, we still have Emmanuel. We've got
Gustavo, we have Miguel back, we have Lillian.
Yeah, I mean, Emmanuel, maybe Lillian is communicating some. Gustavo is sort of MIA, I think, because of all the chaos in Venezuela. Miguel looks like he may follow through, although his budget is still quite high. We'll see how that fits in over time. Cool. All right, so any other questions about moving forward with all of the onboarding?
No question.
All right. So I think that's it then. So we have all of our priority work, mainly the weekly check-in, main session responses. I think there was another one, worker engagement questionnaire. Are there any questions on any of the task responsibilities, priorities? Any other next steps?
No question.
All right, well, I guess we can check out then. You want to start?
Okay, let me start. The session was good. I give it 6. We really went through a lot of things on body. I'll be focusing on worker involvement. Also scheduling with the new recruits to make sure they understand what they're supposed to do by helping them. And also on the budget. Thank you.
Yes, and any of the new recruits can request, check-in sessions. So, anytime they need to schedule and ask questions, go through things, or jump on Hangouts, that's fine.
Okay.
Also, it's good to note, I think with Miguel, we need to double check on their main session responses, right? So if they don't have a main session response, then they can't work as well, right? So for the weekly check-in, it's like reasons why workers can't work. So you have a weekly check-in, and then also responses, like main session responses. Okay, so can you double check on both of those? Can you double check on both of those?
Double check on responses.
The main session responses and the weekly check-in, right? So if people fill out the weekly check-in but don't have a main session response, they can't work. If people have a main session response but don't have a weekly check-in, they can't work.
Okay, like for example, how many main sessions are they supposed to attend? All of them?
Everyone's required to schedule to attend one main session per month, right? Or at least a schedule, and then they need to attend at least once per month and a half, which would be the Mercury session. So everybody is on the global core team needs to attend the equivalent of a Mercury session, but they may not be able to attend the actual Mercury session, so they can attend one of the other sessions. But that's why they need to schedule at least once a month, is that if they don't make that session, they need to have a backup within a couple weeks. So in that context, it's like if they don't show up for a main session, eventually they just need to be removed from the budget. So there'd be an automatic removal if people are not attending sessions. So there's two criteria there. One is for scheduling responses, which needs to be done immediately, and then you actually do have to attend eventually. I mean, you can't just constantly schedule and then cancel or not show up. At some point, it would affect the team not being able to coordinate if they never show up for their session. So can you make sure that everybody is verified for both the weekly check-in and the main session responses?
Yes.
Okay, cool. All right, let me check out. So I thought this session was pretty good. I give it like a 5.5. I will be focusing on more onboarding and recruitment, and I'll also be working on the assets. I'll also be working on the budget, taxes, tax forms, all of it. So lots and lots to do.
Thank you.
All right. So as far as session value tracking, it looks like we're right at the 2-hour mark. So I don't think we need to change anything.
Yeah, 2 hours. Yeah. So I'll send the weekly check-in, announce the strike, then do the storytelling.
Cool. All right. I'll talk to you later. Good work.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.